Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Kermitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week is a very special week because Sam and I have just returned from a weekend at Walt Disney World.
Crazy. It was a week ago. We were there. Where were we? What were we doing a week ago right now?
A week ago this time we were in Animal Kingdom.
That's
I
right.
believe. We woke
were
up
probably
early.
eating at Avatar World or whatever.
But yeah, we've done it, folks. We've been talking about it for a while. I think we even hinted at it early on in this podcast that we wanted to go to Florida to see Muppet Vision 3D in person.
Even if it under different circumstances, we still would have gone.
Yeah, we actually, I think early on probably said when we get to Muppet Vision 3D in our chronological timeline, we have to go to Florida to see Muppet Vision 3D in person, to experience it and talk about it on the podcast. And well, Disney...
How close did we get? When did it open?
91. So we're still a few years off.
We got pretty close though.
Well, not too bad, but I'm sure we predicted that we'd get there a lot sooner early on. But Disney forced our hand and said, hey,
they called our bluff.
You fools better get down here because we're going to close this shit in June.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will spend this episode talking all about our trip and Muppet Vision and all that. So I guess I'm going to skip right ahead and say, Sam, what did we watch this week?
We went to Disney World's Hollywood Studios to see Muppet Vision 3D one last time before it closes in June of 2025. Join Kermit for an exhibition of the Muppets' newest 3D technology featuring a big musical number by Miss Piggy and a celebration of America by Sam Eagle. At least that's what you're supposed to be doing anyway, before Bunsen and Beaker unleash Waldo, the chaotic living embodiment of 3D, and Bean Bunny's overeagerness to help ruins Miss Piggy's musical number. A dejected Bean meets up with Waldo, and the two of them decide to run away and be free of all of their tormentors. The other Muppets look for Bean, who is eventually found in one of the theater boxes, and convince him to come back and help with Sam's finale. The finale goes poorly, of course, as it always does in Muppet stuff, ending in a firefight between the Swedish Chef, the penguins in the orchestra pit, and Waldo. Eventually, the whole theater is blown to bits around you, and Kermit comes in on a fire truck to apologize for the whole mess. We also went to Pizza Rizzo, a lightly themed Muppet food court in the same Grand Avenue area of Hollywood Studios that Muppet Vision is in. There's a little backstory that Rizzo and his huge family started this New York-style pizza place in Los Angeles after moving there to join the Muppets, and the walls are decorated with photos of New York and plaques and mementos from the business's history. The restaurant also features a party room, like the kind that you could rent out for a wedding reception or something like that, in the back, with a disco ball, colorful lights, and party music. And we also walked around Grand Avenue, which was formerly Muppet's Courtyard, which features a Miss Piggy fountain, a now closed Muppet gift shop that we tried to peek in the windows of to no avail, and Gonzo's Royal Flush, which is actually just the bathroom, but is lightly themed after Gonzo's toilet business that he had in the 2011 Muppets movie.
I think even lightly themed is a generous read.
It has the sign.
It has the sign on top.
Yeah.
But there's also a sign on the front of the building that I noticed as you're entering the bathrooms that I think is the, hey, we didn't want to theme these, so we had to come up with an excuse.
Yeah.
So there's a sign on the outside of the building that says Executive Used Toilet Showroom.
Which is pretty good. I think that's funny.
Yes. Standing ovation for the ingenuity there.
Yeah.
But I did sort of have this idea of, what if the bathroom is fun and Muppety themed? and then I see a sign that says, this is
Yeah.
an executive use toilet showroom.
Yeah,
We have
there's
to
it's
have the
just
best
a
toilets.
pretty normal bathroom inside. Which, to be fair, most of the bathrooms at Disney World are pretty normal bathrooms inside. You don't want to
Yeah.
freak people out too bad.
Yeah, Star Wars, I think, is the closest to a super weird
Yeah.
bathroom.
Some of
and
the
even that
restaurants
is
have
pretty
fun
normal.
bathrooms too, where there's stuff hanging on the walls to read. But the big
Yeah.
ones where you're just trying to do your business in the park and get out of there, they don't have fun stuff.
I guess it would be a little odd if your toilet had eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I don't like this. I can't go if you're
Just
watching
doing
me
my
toilet.
job. Gulp, 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 gulp. Or it would be weird if there was like stuff to read above all the urinals and there were just like people like, oh, excuse me, let me look at that, please.
Well, before we get into our, current day Matt and Sam thoughts on our trip, I feel like we should probably throw to Matt and Sam in the parks for a live in the field recording. We brought a little recorder with us with the idea that we would maybe record a bunch of stuff while we were at Walt Disney World, and in reality recorded about 15 minutes of stuff.
That's good for me.
Oh yeah. It makes Sam's job a lot easier. But yeah, I think we should cut to that audio now, and you'll hear me and Sam immediately after our second and last Muppet Vision 3D experience. We are like 20 feet outside of the exit of Muppet Vision 3D, from which we just exited.
Yeah, for our second showing.
The second time, and probably our last time ever.
Yeah, probably. I mean, unless we come later on in the next couple days that we're still here.
Yeah, we
probably
have
not.
an opportunity.
I treated this one as my last time
Yes,
ever.
I took it in. I watched the whole show.
Yep.
We sat further back so we could take it all in.
Yeah.
But that could very easily be our last time on Muppet Vision 3D.
And that's a damn shame. We've been walking around. We're looking at the defunct studio store.
Yeah.
Me and Matt were trying to like creep our way to peek over the top of the window to see what we could see. Couldn't see anything.
You can see a little bit.
You can see one Kermit's director chair and a camera with like 3D glasses on it and a little bit of a set that it's shooting at. But it's really a shame that this whole section wasn't more. There's Pizza Rizzo, of course. But
right. Which we did have lunch at.
And it was fine.
Yeah.
And we sat in the little disco room, and it was really fun. And it was cute in there, and the theming was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look as dirty and gross as you would think maybe Rizzo's Pizza Place would look.
Yeah, like maybe it should if you want to be more on theme.
Yeah, but then maybe it shouldn't if you want people to eat your pizza.
Yeah. Disney has to find that perfect balance of grungy, but also edible.
But it's a shame that there isn't more theming here. I think it's unofficially called the Muppet Courtyard, or is it officially called the Muppet Courtyard?
I don't think it's officially called that. It's called the Grand Park Avenue or something like that.
That's right.
I think it was like the envisioned idea was that this would be Muppet Courtyard.
Yeah.
And there was a grand plan for that never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
So we got the stage one studio store, which was open for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Had some Muppet merch in there. Closed down. Does
Probably
seem
around COVID, maybe?
Maybe around COVID. I don't remember if
Yeah.
that's when it closed or not, but it was definitely open when I was here in 2018.
Yeah, I've been here that I remember, but I don't remember what it looked like.
Yeah.
We learned today that there's like a full set of the Muppet Babies, like
The nursery
the
wall.
nursery
Yeah.
walls are in there with that window.
Yeah,
And
which I don't remember
I
because
saw a picture of it in real life and it scared me. It gave me a really bad feeling. I don't want to end up there.
As I say, imagine if you could walk in and see it right now.
Abandoned.
Be unnerving.
It's in there.
Yeah.
You know it's in
Oh,
there.
it's
If
gotta
everything
be.
else is in there, you know
Yeah,
it's
we can
in
see
there.
the cameras and other signs of Muppetdom in that building,
Yeah.
so it has to exist.
But there's just like a very thin veneer of Muppet stuff here.
Yeah.
And it's too bad they couldn't get the rest of the statues put back in the fountain. It's too bad they couldn't, change some of the window advertisements to Muppet things. But we'll take what we can get. We're Muppet fans. That's what we're used to. What'd you think of the show?
I mean, the show's great.
I think the show's
No
great too.
notes.
I'm very interested to see the Jim Henson Hour and see how much it feels like that. I bet it doesn't feel that much like that.
Right.
But I think it's an interesting, there is a crystallization of everything that the Muppets have been since the 70s in that
Right.
show, where they singing the theme song, which is kind of a little bit weird because
Mhm.
they haven't heard that in a long time.
Right.
And it's not really an episode of the Muppet Show.
No,
It's
they're
just
not even trying to pretend that the Muppet Show is part of this, really.
Yeah.
So it's just its own demonstration of a new technology.
Yeah,
that they're showing off.
And I guess they live at Disney World now.
It's a little confusing. I mean, you don't want to pull back the layers too much because
Yeah.
you have a 3D movie they've created, but they're interacting with Swedish Chef, who's projecting the movie they're creating.
Yeah.
There's
And they
a
actually spend a lot of it in an empty void.
Yeah, and they literally break the fourth wall and then have
Oh, yeah.
Sweetums both
That's true.
in this film and outside the.
Yeah, so in the last scene
theater.
of the film, a fire truck with Kermit on it pulls in, kind of like the end of Roger Rabbit, right? Isn't that what happens exactly the same thing in Roger Rabbit?
But in that, it's the cartoon's world breaking into the real world.
Right,
it's almost the opposite of what happens
Yeah,
here.
that's right. So Kermit comes in on a fire truck, and then Sweetums is out in the crowd going, "See you later."
Yeah.
And then you can see Sweetums in the background, and you get the distinct in the background of the film too. You get the distinct feeling that the person playing Sweetums knows that that's happening. That's
like,
how I
"Look
feel.
over
And they're
here."
like, "Look at me, I'm the real Sweetums. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. There are people in my eye line who are wearing the exact shirt I am currently wearing.
Really?
Yeah. There's
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
couple over there
Matt's
who
got
are wearing. I'm wearing the Save Muppet Vision 3D shirt from Magic Kingdom. That's
And
magic with a K on the
He's
end.
been the belle of the ball. Everybody's coming up to him saying, "I love your shirt, man."
Yeah, multiple cast members have
Nobody's
been like,
coming up saying
"Ooh,
they
look at
love
that."
my shirt.
I mean, what is your shirt?
It's got some fish on it.
But yeah, we are enjoying Disney World. We're on day 1 of our 3 days in the parks.
Yeah, we got all of our work done on the first day, so
Yeah, but we sort of intentionally front-loaded this to
Yeah.
have Hollywood Studios all day, so we got to do Star Wars stuff, and we got to do Muppet stuff. We ate lunch at Pizza Rizzo. We've been on Muppet Vision twice. I've taken 1,000 photos of the Piggy statue and the Pizza Rizzo signs.
yeah.
And
Ate a churro, ate a pretzel,
ate a churro, ate a
drank
pretzel.
some blue milk. Yeah, and this is also the first time we've ever podcasted with each other in person,
And it's the weirdest way to possibly do it.
and it's the most expensive way to possibly do it too.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't look anybody in the eyes when I'm talking about Muppets.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm actually glad I'm wearing headphones right now so I can hear our voices and I can kind of block out that there are people walking around us right now.
Nobody's looking.
Nobody's looking. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
But I'm just holding a fuzzy-looking Muppety recorder.
That's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
But we have seen people with their selfie sticks being like, "And here I go."
And they're by themselves.
Yeah, and
they're
by
not even like with a
themselves.
friend.
They don't even have a buddy.
No.
And we have a buddy.
Yeah, if I was doing this by myself, I'd feel a little bit more self-conscious. But like,
Yeah.
I could just be talking to you and like recording it for posterity.
So are you sad?
I think I'm not currently sad.
Yeah.
I think, with a lot of Disney stuff, I sort of accept that at one point it will go away. But there is a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's both the wasted potential of what could have been here
Yeah.
with some of the, I feel like what could have been a Muppets Courtyard if they had really leaned into it really hard.
Totally.
And then there's also just like, I don't know, things like, I said this to you when we were in the banquet hall at Pizza Rizzo,
Uh-huh.
where I was like, I kind of get it, like why this doesn't necessarily align with the current Disney thing,
yeah.
but also it's so weird and good and specific that,
Yeah.
come on guys, just,
when we were sitting in Pizza Rizzo, people got up and started dancing
Yeah.
on the little dance floor.
Yeah.
And that's like the only time that I've ever seen anything like when you watch a commercial about Disney World and people are like, let's be spontaneous.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've ever seen it.
yeah.
The theater's always full, and I would bet that the theater's always full a lot of times. It
Yeah.
just has high turnover, so
People
it doesn't
were
seem
applauding,
like...
people were laughing at Bean Bunny.
Yep.
They love that little bunny.
Yeah, they do. They really love him. I'm interested to get to know more about him.
Yeah,
Because I
but
do love him from this, I think, mostly.
the average, public, they're not going to get to see Bean Bunny anymore.
Nope, because they can't watch... I mean, they can watch Tales of Bunny Picnic if they try really hard.
I say, I don't know, like Muppet Christmas Carol, they
Yeah.
can see him in, but
Yeah.
most Bean Bunny content isn't just
It's
readily
behind-
available
it's
on
in the
like
Disney
Disney Plus
vault.
or anything. Yeah.
It's in the vault.
And now Bean Bunny is no more,
Yeah.
as far as right now.
They're
But
going to destroy his little robotic body.
yeah,
Jeez.
we gotta go steal him.
He looks like shit, though. He's the worst part of the ride. He doesn't look good.
Yeah, he's not great.
It's not like he's falling apart or anything. He's just very,
He's just
like...
never looked like the puppet.
Yeah, nothing even
Statler and
close.
Waldorf looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But Bean Bunny does not necessarily look like Bean Bunny does.
Statler and Waldorf...
His eyes. It's his eyes, I think.
Yeah, and I was even looking this time, and they're like the right. I was like, does he just have black little beady eyes? Yes.
What it is his face is very flat as an
Uh-huh.
animatronic, and his puppet version has he has a bigger
Express-
mouth and nose
yeah.
area that juts out a bit more, so his eyes are set back in his head a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think animatronic Bean to have a moving mouth and stuff maybe.
I don't think he has a moving mouth.
Does he not move his mouth?
It doesn't seem like he does.
Hmm.
He's just like, you're supposed to be far enough away from him, you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Statler and Waldorf, though, I was looking at him the first time we sat really close to them.
Mhm.
They have flesh. They don't have
They have
felt.
to have rubbery,
Yeah, they're-
bendable
They're
material.
the most realistic Muppets I've ever seen, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
But they look good. They're fine. They're funny. People laugh so hard at every line that they have.
Yeah.
It's like a good Statler
I heard some
and
people
Waldorf.
quoting
Yeah,
along,
me too.
saying the lines along with them. But yeah, no, I think it'll. Are you sad?
Yeah, it got me this time when I was thinking, because some of them sound old.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of... I can never remember anybody's name.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of Richard in the actual show.
Right, you have
but there's
Beaker.
a lot of Richard in the pre-show.
Right, with Scooter.
And his Scooter's sounding a little old.
Mhm.
And Jim sounding a little old. His Kermit's sounding a little sleepy.
Right.
Frank doesn't sound any different, and neither does. But when they were all three, when Fozzie, Kermit, and Gonzo were leaning out of the screen looking at Bean, and it was all three of them, and I was like, this is the last time it was all three of them.
Yeah.
Maybe not really, but it was like...
It's pretty close, if not, or at least, like, you know, a release date wise. Like, this came out after, obviously, but, like, I think this is... Yeah, it did get me a little bit, like, when there was just, like, the moments they were talking very earnestly to us, the audience.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that part made me sad. But, it also is just, like, makes me sad it's going away, because it is, one of the last things he worked on.
Yeah.
And hopefully ends up somewhere that people can see it like they said it would. And it would be great if it moved. It's a huge building. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
I don't think they can fit it over by the Rock and Roller Coaster. But they can do something cool over by the Rock and Roller Coaster and pay some tribute to the Muppets in a way that fits better than the Rock and Roller Coaster does, too, I think.
Yeah. But for now, we need to head to our dinner reservation at the Sci-Fi Dine-In.
Yeah, because we're adult men.
We're adult men who are about to share a tiny car.
Yeah. I want to get a milkshake.
Ooh, 2 straws?
I'm on my diet, though.
Oh no. That's how you know we're adult men.
I'm on a wedding diet. I can't get a milkshake. My wife will know.
Well, we are heading out of the Muppets courtyard currently, getting ready to walk past the lovely Miss Piggy Fountain.
Oh, yeah, I'm taking it home with me.
He's going to take a saw to it, Jebediah Springfield style.
Oh, no. But, if you're lucky enough to be able to go before the ride closes, really, there's nothing else like it. And it's like the distillation of everything that the Muppets did in Jim's era. In really a lot of interesting ways, I think, that we've seen, and we've seen it grow and change into just like, this is like the crystallized version of it in everybody's brain that never actually existed, except this one time.
Yeah, and it feels so different from the things we've been seeing lately in Muppets.
Yeah.
That it feels like a little bit of a throwback to their own stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's like the thing he keeps getting sucked into every now and then, where he makes a Kermit the Frog thing, and it's really good, and he's like, I wish I wasn't so good at making Kermit the Frog things, but unfortunately, you're really good at making Kermit the Frog things.
So for now, we are signing off because we do have to run across the park a little bit to get to our dinner reservation.
Oh boy, okay.
Let's go.
See you later. Bye.
For those who might be worried, yes, we did make it to our Sci-Fi Dine-In reservation.
They were late to seat us, actually. It took them forever. So
that is true. We did make it in time. We did share a tiny car. And yes, they did bring me 2 straws for my milkshake because they thought Sam and I were on a date.
And I looked around at other people, and they did not have 2 straws.
Yeah, Sam was like, maybe they bring everyone 2 straws. And then he glanced around and was like, nope.
That's okay.
They don't.
I would have drank out of your milkshake, but... I had my own fun novelty drink to drink, so we were all right.
But yeah, Sam, we did it. We went to Walt Disney World. We took a vacation together, just you and me.
Uh-huh. It was a working vacation.
Sure. I mean...
You know what? I didn't even mention, like, we went to the Sam the Eagle. We looked at every single Muppet thing you could possibly look at Disney World, including
that feels like
one thing.
Bold claim where I feel like somebody's going to find something that we don't talk about.
I think it's right. Including one thing that we didn't even expect, which was in the adventure, the American Adventure, when you see Jim Henson for a second.
Right.
That also counts as the Kermitment. But we went to the barbecue place where it's like also very lightly themed after Sam Eagle, in the form of just that there's like 3 posters on the wall about how he had a barbecue competition one time, and his head is there. We saw some topiaries.
We did see some topiaries.
We did it up. We didn't get to see the projection show on the ball because on Spaceship Earth, because they're not doing that right now.
Yeah, the Rainbow Connection Spaceship Earth show, I believe, only happens during the Arts Festival, which happened in February. So we did not get to see that one.
No.
But when I came back to the office last week, multiple people were asking me, like, not how was Walt Disney World, but like, how was podcasting at Walt Disney World? And like, how did you guys get everything done you wanted to do? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was about 15 minutes of our trip.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time was just a fun Walt Disney World trip.
We were doing research for a little bit. We did walk around Muppet Courtyard for a really long time, and you took a lot of pictures.
Yeah. I think that was at least in my expectations of what this trip would be, trying to sort of burn into my brain the
Yeah,
vision of
totally.
Muppet Courtyard and all Pizza Rizzo and stuff
Yeah,
because
that's an interesting way to put it because I also do that when I go to Disney World. Every time I go, I'm just like, I must implant this into my brain because next time I'm here, this could be torn down
Mhm.
and I'll never see it again, as
And
has
this time
happened
it's
with other.
true.
Yeah, like with we went on the dinosaur ride, and I'm
Mhm.
so sad that most of Dinosaur Land was closed because I would have loved to have. But I did do that the last time I went several years ago because the
Yeah.
writing has been on the wall for Dinosaur Land for a pretty long time.
Yeah, I think with this area, especially like you and I, we talked about how we've both been to Walt Disney World in the past,
Mm-hmm.
5, 10 years, but we both went before we started doing Kermitment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we liked the Muppets. I'm sure we both went and saw Muppet Vision 3D. We walked past Pizza Rizzo, but the appreciation level is very different now as opposed
Yeah.
to what it was the last time I was there because I had never been inside of Pizza Rizzo until this trip.
Mm-mm.
I watched Muppet Vision, enjoyed it, but didn't think about it that hard.
Right. Or
So
like
this,
go through the line and like look at all the posters and like look in the little guard booth and be like, hey, there's Link Hogthrob. I wouldn't have
yeah,
even really known who that was before last time I went.
yeah. I mean, like, who's that sexy man pig?
I gotta get back there and give it. I wouldn't have appreciated the sexy Miss Piggy calendar he's got hanging up or anything.
Yeah, you hadn't yet learned of your true feelings for Miss
That's right.
Piggy.
That's right. And you know what, Pizza Rizzo was pretty dang cute. I liked it.
Yeah, Pizza Rizzo, we went in sort of expecting the worst, I think. Just terrible cafeteria pizza, and it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And we sat in the banquet hall area on the second floor at the back, which is supposed to be, yeah, like a place you can rent out for weddings or whatever, and is supposed to be playing essentially wedding dance music throughout. So the main Pizza Rizzo area is playing a more just like background Italian music.
Yeah.
And then you step into the banquet hall and it's much more pop hits that are intended and did get people up and dancing.
Crazy. This is like the only time I've ever seen like what maybe you would consider like Disney magic in real life because people got up and did like a line dance.
Yeah,
It's
which it
so
started.
crazy.
It started with just a couple kids, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
they're kids. They got a lot of energy. They're up and dancing. But then the adults were like, yeah, you know what? I am also going to get up and dance. And then everyone started forming lines and doing an actual line dance on this tiny little like 8x8 dance floor they have in Pizza
It was
Rizzo.
crazy. But the food was not that bad. I think there's nothing people like better than to complain about food and talk about how bad it is. And I think a lot about how people are like, you're gonna get diarrhea. It's like from anything, from Taco
Yeah,
Bell, from Chipotle, from whatever. People love to say you're gonna get diarrhea. I don't ever get diarrhea.
people
Do you?
love to say
Do
it.
you ever get diarrhea?
Is this a conversation topic we're having on the podcast at the
When you
moment?
like
This is
go to a
our
place,
Disney World spectacular, Sam, and
well,
you're trying to
Pizza
pivot
Rizzo is
us
a
to
place where
poop.
people have told us you're gonna get diarrhea. I
To
didn't
be
have any
fair,
issues.
I did have somebody on Twitter or Blue Sky or one of those other text-based type things
Uh-huh.
when I posted some pictures of us being at Pizza Rizzo was like, "Oh, watch out for the pizza," and I was like, "Oh, well, we ate it," and they're like, "Well, just wait for a few hours, then you'll regret it." And yeah, no, I will say I didn't regret it.
Then they would probably also say, "Well, wait a few years." Someday they'll say,
Yeah.
"I wish I
When your
hadn't eaten that
doctor, when
pizza."
you're 40, is like, there's a little blip here on your.
There's an entire pizza crust lodged in your heart. You have moments to live.
I think for me, Pizza Rizzo is, I said this, I think, in the audio that we recorded while we were there,
Hmm.
but I don't know, it's such a weird thing. Like, it only opened in 2016.
Hmm.
Like, it's not
It was
like a
Pizza
Disney.
Planet before that,
Yeah, it was a
right?
Toy Story Pizza Planet, which I think was one of my most disappointing Disney World things because it was not like
It's
Uber
not. Yeah,
themed. It
it's
was
like
not the Pizza Planet you would expect.
it's like crammed into this warehouse kind of thing that I don't know what the history of that building is, but
Yeah, but that's one of those where I'm like, you have such a specific Toy Story idea in the movie of what Pizza Planet is that if you just made that real, I feel like people would be stoked.
Right. Well, that's kind of what Disney Quest was. Did you ever go
Mm,
there? Like Disney Quest was as close to what Pizza Planet looked like in that movie as it could
right.
possibly exist, I think.
But yeah, with Pizza Rizzo, one, it's a bummer that it's only lasting, 9 years until they are getting rid of it. But also, I think it is interesting. I'm sure people like Tough Pigs have talked about this thing in the past because they were more aware as these things were going on.
Hmm.
But the waves of Disney's commitment to Muppets Courtyard and when they were going to incorporate Muppets and when they were not going to incorporate Muppets and how they went through these waves is so interesting, and how quickly they would like pivot directions sometimes. And I think I don't I don't see this like move to Monsters Inc. as a big pivot necessarily, like a quick pivot. I'm sure it was very considered for a long time,
Uh-huh.
but reading through the history of Muppet's Courtyard and Muppet Vision and all this, I just don't know that they ever knew what they really wanted from that area once Jim died.
You think before he died, there was a grander plan?
Yeah,
Or
so there actually was.
okay.
So there were super early plans for MGM Studios back when it was first opening, to basically have an area that they were going to refer to as the Muppet Studios.
Okay.
And this would have featured the Great Muppet Movie Ride, which was a concept,
Right.
which was
Okay.
going to be like the Great Movie Ride, but full of misinformation and would not actually teach you anything about how movies are made.
Amazing.
There's actually a quote from Jim where he says, "It's the flip side of the rest of the Disney MGM studio, which tells you how movies are really made. We're doing it in the most stupid way possible using lots of misinformation."
Beautiful. I love that. I love that he called it stupid.
Yeah. But
Also, that's like a bold claim on his part that it teaches you that the rest of the park teaches you anything. I mean, I guess
back
there was
then, it
like
definitely taught you more than it teaches you
yes,
now.
there was the backlot tour. There was like a Drew Carey hosted like a Foley based like show. But yeah, I guess you learn a little bit.
Yeah. And the idea of having a ride that has a parody of another ride that's also in the same park at the same time is kind of a wild concept.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if they did the Great Muppet Movie Ride now as like a throwback sort of thing,
right.
that makes more sense in my brain. But the idea that they would set up like, a 2-minute walk away from the actual ride, sort of a parody ride.
There,
Uh,
that's what they did in Dino Land. There was Countdown to
that's right.
Extinction, and there was a roller coaster that I think was also called Countdown or something. It was not
Yeah.
called Countdown to Extinction, but it retold the story of Countdown to
But like a
Extinction,
more
but
kid friendly way.
in like cardboard cutouts that were along the track, basically. Yeah.
Right. Well, they also were pitching some other Muppet themed restaurants for the area at the time. There was going to be the Hard Luck Cafe. That would have been a Hard Rock Cafe parody, themed around Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem with
What?
Muppet memorabilia on the
It's not
walls.
too late to do any of this.
There was going to be the Great Gonzo's Pandemonium Pizza Parlor.
Okay. The wrong guy
Uh,
to have a pizza parlor, I feel like.
well,
There's
so this one was
several.
going to be a Gonzo and Rizzo opened a pizza parlor together
Okay,
idea.
sure.
And it was planned to be where Mama Melrose's Ristorante Italiano is.
Yeah.
So this was pre Pizza Rizzo being a thing. Like this was the first Muppet Pizza idea.
Right.
But it's wild. You can read a lot about it on Muppet Wiki. They were going to have animatronic rats like bring out your food on like train tracks.
Oh, like a sushi
Yeah,
roll.
but it had like little
Okay.
rats running around. There would be the occasional explosion blowing open the doors of the kitchen, sending clouds of smoke and chicken feathers into the dining room.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
that's that part of that doesn't sound so good, but
yeah, and an animatronic Swedish chef like back in the kitchen. There was also in one of the concept art drawings a Swedish chef's video cooking school, but there's not anything really known about that beyond the
huh.
idea that it showed up
Okay.
in a concept sketch. But they also wanted to have some of the buildings in the area be like interactive facades,
Yeah.
like New Zealand's Boomerang Fish Market, which would have had animatronic fish in the windows.
What the hell?
But yeah, so only Muppet Vision 3D was finished before the plans were canceled
No. Jim was
following the
going
death of
crazy.
Jim.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was like, we're gonna take this park over. Cause he'd been waiting to take this park over for a long time. A
Well,
Disney park, right?
yeah. Well, that was the whole thing, is because in 1989,
Mhm.
1990, around then is when he started talking for real with Michael Eisner about selling the Muppets to Disney. And this deal was sort of ongoing for a long time. There was some contention about trying to include Sesame Street or not in that. And so, yeah, this took a while. And then Jim passed away and the deal dissolved. Obviously, it came back, a decade or more later,
Mhm.
and when they actually finally did buy the Muppets. But because Jim passed away and this deal went away, they sort of just gave up on the future of this Muppets courtyard for, you know, a really long time. But then in 2016, this whole weird Streets of America area, which is what this became, which was just like some random buildings, and then the Muppets courtyard happened to be nearby. They had to tear down some of the Streets of America to make room for Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
And so when they did that, it left like this one row of buildings and the Muppets courtyard. And they were like, okay, so let's rebrand this and call it Muppets Courtyard. So from 2016 to 2017, it was officially
That's as
branded.
long as it was Muppet's Courtyard for?
Yep. And
Jesus,
then in
God.
2017 is when they announced that this area would be renamed Grand Avenue and the central Muppet
Great.
area would be called Grand Park.
Duh, okay.
Much better than Muppets Courtyard.
I
All my
rem
memories I made at Grand Park.
I remember when the park I've always loved, MGM Studios, as it
Mhm.
used to be called, and I remember this part of the park definitely felt more like you could tell it was supposed to be, different shooting location like, different backlot shooting
Right.
locations, so that's what all the random buildings were, and that doesn't feel like that anymore at all. It is, like, very
Yeah.
confusing back there for sure.
That park in general feels weird.
Yeah,
Like there's no really cohesive storytelling happening as you walk around. Like,
right.
Magic Kingdom obviously is so good at this, where you're walking through Tomorrowland and all of a sudden you're in Fantasyland and then you're in Adventureland. It's like
Yeah,
the seamless sort of transition that happens between those, and
yeah,
suddenly you're just in a new land, is so well done that it really highlights how poorly it's done in Hollywood studios, because it everything feels like there's a building in the way of where you want to go. And that
yeah,
building
it's
is
a
just a
hard one to
big
walk
blank
around for
building with
sure.
ABC billboards on the side of it that you're like,
Right.
I don't know what this building is for, but I have to go around it to get to Star Wars, I
Yeah,
guess.
and I think that used to be exciting, like,
it
it
it felt
used
like you were
to.
on a back lot, like you were
Yes.
in the studio and there was
Yeah.
fun things in those buildings and not just a commissary.
Yeah, and it was a I think knowing that it was a working film studio for a very brief
Right.
amount of time also was like, "Ooh, this is cool. This makes sense why it's that." I still love the, like, old-time Hollywood walk up and then
Mhm.
the, like, walk back to Tower of Terror. That all works really well. I think the
Yeah.
area where there's, like, Indiana Jones and, Echo Lake and Star Tours, that
Mhm.
area is cool too, but then, yeah, once you get to, like, the Chinese theater, and then you're
Right.
kinda like, "Where the hell am I supposed to go? I don't really get
Yeah, so
this." Yeah.
when you need to get back to Muppets or Star Wars or Toy Story, like
Yeah.
when you need to get back to those places is when you're like, I guess I'll cut through this weird little hallway that's
Yeah.
just blank big buildings, or need to go around this weird New York
Yeah.
set. Yeah.
I think one thing that we talked about as we were there was they used to have the big tower that you could see, the water tower
The
with
water
the
tower
ears
with
on
the
it.
ears, yeah.
And you can't really see, like, I guess you could see the Tower of Terror from everywhere, but maybe you actually can't. But in the other parks, there's always like the castle or the ball,
Mhm.
and you can be like, that's the middle. But there's no way, like the Man's Chinese Theater is the middle of this park, but you can't see it anywhere.
Right.
So the whole time you're just like, what the heck? Where the hell am I? Still love it though. I like that it's so funky and like taped together at this point. But it makes me scared for it because, someday they'll say Tower of Terror is going away, but they can't get rid of
Mm.
Tower of Terror.
I was gonna say, I feel like they've got other things to worry about in that park before Tower of Terror
Yeah.
is on the
Right.
chopping block, because I do think some of those bigger buildings just need to be reworked with a better
Yeah.
story or something, because it does feel, which isn't the case, but it almost feels like it was the real back lot where they were making stuff, and then
Right.
someone decided to put some rides around, but they were like, "You can't touch the businessy buildings. We
These.
need
Yeah, we need these
these."
ones. Yeah.
And so that just ends up feeling like you're not supposed to be in certain areas that you
Right.
have to go through.
I mean, that whole backlot area, that feels ripe for where you could plug some Muppet stuff in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen, but
No,
it's a
I don't
great
think so either.
idea.
It is really close to Rock and Roller Coaster, though.
Yeah, which I realized this morning, Sam, we did not ride.
We didn't ride. I think we just literally ran out of time. I think,
Yeah, but we talked about it multiple times
yeah,
during the trip where we were going on different rides and we were talking, about wait times as we were waiting on some things.
yeah,
And then we just completely forgot about Rock and Roller Coaster.
yeah. So we didn't
Um,
pay our final respects to Aerosmith.
I'm okay with that, but I really blame Slinky Dog Dash because I think that
Yeah.
ride queue crushed our spirits.
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was in general, the park was maybe some of the emptiest I've ever seen it in a
Mhm.
positive way. And like all of the lines, we just were like, they were long lines, but we were basically walking the whole time through most of them.
Yeah.
But Slinky Dog Dash, brutal, brutal. Like that and Tron was brutal for a different reason, but
Yeah.
Slinky Dog Dash was a tough one.
Yeah, we can get into some of our other Disney World thoughts, but I do want to talk a bit more about Muppet's Courtyard because it is closing. For those who maybe got this far into the podcast and don't know,
Yeah.
the Muppet's Courtyard, Muppet Vision, Pizza Rizzo, it's all closing June 7th, I believe, is the last operating date. So
Mm-hmm.
get there before then if you want to enjoy Muppets. Yeah, we tried to peek into the Stage One Company store, which is the building is still there. It still looks from the outside like it should be a Muppet gift shop,
Yeah.
but since 2020 it has been closed
Yeah.
and
I mean, it
has
has
not
big
been
signs
used.
outside that say, like, come in here to get Muppet stuff.
Yeah, giant
Can't.
murals on the walls, and
Yeah.
it's
That's,
sadly just a big empty building for the past 5 years.
yeah, they could have cracked those doors open one last time during this little period. But there's still stuff in there. And I think we probably talked about this maybe in the
Mm.
live on location. But we heard alarming news that there's a full size Muppet Babies room
Well,
recreated in
yeah,
there.
there's at least a wall of the nursery is
Yeah.
in the gift shop, so we could have
I
faced
would
our
have loved
fears
that big
IRL.
window. Yeah. That big window that haunts my nightmares is definitely in there. I saw a picture of that.
But there's the Miss Piggy fountain, which again used to feature Fozzie, Gonzo, and Animal.
Used to
But
spin and play music too. Doesn't do any
yeah,
of that anymore.
and in 2017 is when they need to repair the fountain, and so for a while they took everything out, they turned it into a planter, and then they finally were bringing it back online, turning it back into a fountain, and they just didn't put Fozzie, Gonzo, and Animal back in the fountain.
And I don't think they move or anything. They're just
I don't think so. I think they
statues.
were, stationary. So they focused on, I guess, replacing the Miss Piggy and leaving the rest out. But this is also around the time. This is what I was talking about with the weird timing, where like, okay, so 2016, you open Pizza Rizzo,
Hmm.
you declare this is Muppet's Courtyard. To me, I'm like, cool, sign of great things to come. You're gonna do something cool here. Then they're like, all right, 2017, we're also gonna repair this fountain. You're like, great, amazing. You're working hard on this location. But then it comes back and you took out some of the Muppets. And then around the same time is when they took down the hot air balloon from the top of Muppet Vision.
Yeah.
So it's, give with one hand, take with the other sort of situation where, even I think last year, the year before, is when they added new effects to Muppet Vision 3D and they updated
Right.
the chairs in Muppet Vision 3D. And everyone was like, oh, this is a positive sign. They're going to keep this ride around. And then less than a year later, they're like, haha, no, those were probably just new things we installed so we could make a Monsters Inc. show.
In preparation for Mike Wazowski's Laugh Floor 2 or whatever. If they get the Monsters Inc. stuff out of Tomorrowland, though, because of this, that's a
Mhm.
little victory for me. I don't think that should be in Tomorrowland.
What if we just put Gonzo's alien encounter in Tomorrowland?
Yes, that would be good. That would be good.
Just have
Stitch was in there
Gonzo.
for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, Muppet Vision 3D obviously was the main thing we went to pay our respects to. It was written by Bill Prady. It was the last
Oh,
project
yeah.
directed by Jim Henson because it was filmed in January of 1990, just a few months before he died.
Hmm.
Frank is the one who finished up the work on it after Jim passed away. And I think there's a story on Muppet Wiki about Disney was going to pay him like 50 grand or something like that. And he said, like, I don't need the money. I just need some new socks. And so they sent him like a basket of socks after
Why
he
didn't he
finished
take
it.
the money?
I guess it was more of it, probably a tribute to Jim. He was just like probably in a, not a great space. His friend just died and he's like,
Yeah.
I don't need your money to finish this. It's a passion project.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's not like a little dedication plaque to him or something like that somewhere.
Well, and at some point they even removed his name from it because it used to say Jim Henson's
Oh,
Muppet
yeah.
Vision
I'm
3D
looking
with
at
the
the logo
old
right now.
big logo. And then they, after the, I think 2011 movie, sometime in that decade, they replaced the marquee to make it look more like the modern day
With that
Muppets.
the ugly one with the Kermit fringe on the
On the
M.
M. Yeah.
I don't like that. Which is not what it is anymore, right?
Correct. The Muppet Studios logo is now a more traditional Muppet Show font.
Yeah. It did used to be called. Okay, so this is another weird thing because I've always called it Muppet Vision 4D, and I'm reading about it right
Oh.
now, and apparently it was called that in that. Remember that? Do you ever play that computer game Magic Kingdom Explorer, where it was just like a
I don't
map?
think I have actually. I've seen it, but I don't think I've ever been lucky enough to play it.
I had that game, and it apparently was called Muppet Vision 4D game. I had that advertisement for Disney World, but it was cool. It had like behind the scenes, like
Yeah.
how stuff was made. But it was apparently called Muppet Vision 4D on that, and also I'm looking at a map from like 1990 something, and it's also called Muppet Vision 4D on this, but it was apparently never actually called that like on the ride itself.
Well, yeah, I think it's not incorrect. They have
It's a 4D experience
there's
to be
bubbles,
sure.
there's water.
Yeah.
That's end of list maybe. There's some smoke.
Yeah, maybe it blows wind
There's
on
a
you?
Sweetums.
Some wind blows on you, I believe, and
I
Sweetums,
think
yeah.
wind used to blow on you more when
I
that
think so, too.
vacuum part happens.
Yeah.
But
This is the
now
sad
it feels like, okay, maybe the air conditioner just turned on.
Yeah, this is the sad reality of theme park rides is that, like, they just slowly strip parts away that they're like, "This was too expensive, this was too
Yeah.
expensive." Like, Tower of Terror used to have, like, steam in the basement and stuff, and now it's just not there, or, like, uh I'm sure I could think of another good example, but I can't right now. Oh, like the guns in Galaxy's Edge, where it's just like
Right.
they broke too many times. We're just not even gonna try to fix them anymore.
But yeah, if you've never got to experience Muppet Vision, I am so sorry because it's a lot of fun.
Go, go, go! It's not too late.
Go now, or there are some pretty good, like 4K full watch throughs on YouTube that you can enjoy. Make sure to watch the pre-show videos. Sam and I, we went, we showed up for a screening of it, and we were in the pre-show. We came in like the middle of the pre-show, and to do our due diligence to watch the entire pre-show as a part of this commitment, we stayed behind as everyone else went into the theater to watch Muppet Vision. We waited because we wanted to watch the entire show from the beginning, and I was fully prepared to like have to explain to the cast members like, "Oh, no, don't worry about us. We're going to hang back to watch the show." But they didn't care about us at all.
They know. They know what kind of freaks like that, right? Especially right now.
I also was wearing a shirt that said "Save Muppet Vision 3D."
Yeah, which got a lot of attention.
Got a lot of attention from cast members and park goers alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I don't know. It was a very good experience. I think going to see that. I had seen it before at Walt Disney World when I was, like 10, but I had also seen it in Disneyland where it was open from 2001 to 2014. I had seen it out there before. And yeah, this was obviously the most I ever appreciated it and the most attention I ever really gave every part of it and try to just soak it all in of the film, the animatronics, the music. It's just a very good show.
Yeah, and it's like so interesting to see them go back to the Muppet Show, basically like recreating the Muppet Show for the 90s and going back to this like concept that they haven't really explored since like 1980 or whenever the Muppet Show ended, and it like crystallizes it in such an interesting way of like this Muppet Show never actually existed, but
Mm.
you could believe that it existed, or like that the Muppet Show's been going on since it ended on television for this long. I'm really curious to see what's going on in the Jim Henson Hour, to see if there's any like connective tissue aside from Bean Bunny being like such
Hmm.
a prominent part of it. Because it is just like they settle right back into these characters and their dynamics, and it's like, when was the last time Sam Eagle was talking about America like that? Was it 15 years prior to this? Like, how does anybody remember that? And it's just because they're such, like, I don't know, memorable characters, I guess. But it was definitely much more meaningful this time, and I probably got way more jokes than I've ever gotten before.
Mhm.
My question is that supposed? Do you think it's supposed to be the Muppet Theater that you're in, or is this a new place?
I think it's supposed to be a recreation of the Muppet Theater. Yeah, that's my read on it, but it
Mm-hmm.
also is uh, such a weird concept in general that you start to it breaks down pretty quickly if you think about it too hard.
Yeah,
So I
I think
think
I only asked that because it would have been maybe kind of neat if they had recreated like the stairs up to the dressing room and like Kermit's little desk or something like that. Would have been cool to
right.
see. But it also is interesting because so much of Muppet Theater then is dominated by Muppet Labs. It's like
Mm.
Muppet Theater is like the like legitimate front of this like mad scientist business. It seems like, because like you walk in and you're in Muppet Labs and there's like
right.
doors everywhere that say Muppet Labs, and the whole ride is themed around Muppet Labs. It's just kind of like this weird side effect where it's like Muppets are super science, like that somehow goes hand in hand.
Or like a secret meth lab or something. Like
Yeah, Bunsen and Beaker are developing weapons back there for
that's how
sure.
they actually make their money.
Yeah, that's why the Muppets can keep doing what they do.
But yeah, a little bit more like behind the scenes info on Muppet Vision. It was opened on the 1 year anniversary of Jim Henson's death
Mm.
on May 16th, 1991, and the pre-show was directed by David Gumpel, who will go on to direct a bunch of other Muppet things, like a
Hmm.
lot of direct-to-video stuff, including some of the VHSs we've been watching recently. And they filmed the pre-show at the Jim Henson's Carriage House in New York City.
Oh,
So
cool.
again, I've been in that room where where they were shooting that.
That's a great little pre-show. They cram so many guys into it.
Yeah, I wish I could like set up just like 3 monitors in my office that were like always playing this pre-show.
Uh-huh.
I guess I would need 6 because at
Yeah,
one
because some
point
of
they
it,
shoot
yeah.
across to the other 3. So I'd
Yeah,
have to have
Scooter
6
like
monitors.
Scooter checks all of them and yeah, like breaks the fiction of those 3 monitors and like
Mm.
goes around to all
It's
of
a
them.
really good subtle moment though.
Yeah. Yeah. Also think it's like also you can feel so much when you know so much about how Jim wanted the future of entertainment to be, or like how much he
Mm,
made stuff where it was like, we're exploding into your living room. Like how
right.
excited he must have been to make this thing where like things were coming out of the screen and it was like he had control of every single thing that you saw. It's definitely like the culmination of his desire to make something like truly fourth wall breaking in that way that he's always trying to do with his stuff of like they're meta putting on a show for you and you can see all the different bits and pieces of it. I wonder how much of it he saw before he died.
That's a good question. I don't imagine they got extremely far
Hmm.
into the process because I imagine there's a lot of work that has to go into something like this to make it
Right.
work. So I'm sure concept art and maybe some initial edits or something, but that's just a few months after they shot it is when he died.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure, but it is one of those things where I think about if they were making Muppet Vision today, what theme park tricks would they maybe incorporate? Because you see things in like Mickey's Runaway Railway where you're watching something on the screen and the
Right.
screen explodes and you get to walk through the screen. And I feel like that is primed to use in
Yeah.
something like Muppet Vision, where at the end of just instead of the screen exploding and you see outside, the screen could actually somehow disappear in part, and you like Sweetums could actually be behind the screen there in person.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or do something like the Great Movie Ride where the the I guess it's the Ellen's Energy Adventure more like where you're sitting in this huge ride vehicle and you don't even realize it until it like drives into the screen or something like that. That's how the
yeah.
like the Muppet movie ride could start or something.
hmm it is a shame it's going away. I am glad I've got to see it so many times in
Yeah.
my life, but especially this trip was obviously very special.
I also I think the maybe nowadays the orchestra of penguins
Hmm.
is fun,
Hmm.
but thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just way cheaper probably than to like recreate the actual orchestra of the Muppet Show.
Right, because the penguins only have a couple of different movements they need to
Yeah,
make.
but it would
Yeah,
have been fun to be able to see like Animal down there playing because Animal's not even in this. I don't think, is he? Like Rolf and Animal, lots of notable absences.
yeah. I did want to note something I found on Muppet Wiki is apparently in 2009 they upgraded the show to be digital,
Mm,
which I'm guessing was just easier on the gear
right,
to
right.
do a digital projection as opposed to an actual film projection every time. And David Gumpel, the guy who directed the pre-show, he said in November 2008 that he had directed a new version of the pre-show
What?
and that it was going to be included with the updated attraction when they like reopened for the digital projection. He did not say when that was expected to debut, and it never did.
What the heck? So there's a massive unseen Muppets piece of media
It would
hidden
seem,
away deep in Disney.
yeah, it would seem that there is maybe a different pre-show somewhere out there for Muppet Vision 3D that was made in 2008.
What? That probably wouldn't. I mean, it probably wouldn't have been as good as the original one. But
Maybe that's why they scrapped it. Maybe they watched
yeah,
it and they're like, yeah, it's good, but not as good.
yeah.
I guess then how do you hope they preserve this? There's been rumors, there's been talks of preserving it
I
in
don't know.
some way, and I don't know if they actually have an idea at the
I wish
moment
they
or if
hadn't
they
even said
just
anything
yeah.
because it sets up to set up any kind of expectation when the reality is going to be you can watch it on Disney Plus is
Which honestly,
fine. But
I would rather have that than this disappearing forever
yeah,
because
yeah,
the recordings people have done from the theater, they're either very blurry because this is a 3D movie and they're
right.
recording this without glasses, or I know some people have like put some glasses over their camera and recorded it so it's not as blurry, but it's not a perfect one-to-one recreation of this
Yeah.
film,
But
which if yeah.
like you said, there this park is so much wasted space, it feels like. Like there's a whole backlot area, there's that weird place where like the Incredibles come sometimes and just stand around, or like the place to
Well,
the
that
left
weird
of the
little Pixar place that I think was closed when we were there,
yeah, I
just
think
had a
it
big
was.
door that was like, hey, this is where we put Pixar stuff sometimes.
Yeah, or that Star Wars launch bay kind of thing to the left, which is
Yeah.
completely unnecessary when you have Galaxy's Edge and Star Tours, which Star Tours also is kind of like wasted space because they could just like, I don't know, they should probably push that back so that it's closer to Galaxy's Edge instead of you walk past like what is supposed to look like a fake uh Star Wars setup and then go directly into what is supposed to be like the most immersive Star Wars thing you could imagine. So my if I was the boss of the parks,
Let them have it, Sam.
and
Let's
someday
go.
I
What do
will
you
be.
got?
Someday I will be. You could tear down. I'm looking at a huge blank building next to Rock and Roller Coaster that is
Well,
like
okay.
maybe like the Mickey and Friends like stage show or something like that.
Well, so this
Where
is they used to have Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy there.
mm,
And they are about to put a big old villains show in there, which is
oh
going to be set in a big classic looking theater.
ah
So there is a chance, I think some people are holding out hope that maybe in a few years, the villain show winds down
yeah,
and they bring back Muppet Vision 3D, maybe a little
I have
smaller, maybe a little different, but in that building right next to the new Electric Mayhem rock and roller coaster.
I have not heard this before. But you just cut down some trees back there and go over some grass behind Rock and Roller Coaster? Because this map shows the show buildings. Like, there's nothing. There's that big building where the villain's thing will be. There's Rock and Roller Coaster. You just plow all that over. You put Muppet Vision 3D right back.
Or you
Just
just
bring it.
flat on that whole forest you got over there and just make a
Yeah.
whole new Muppet land, bigger than Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. But I mean, I have a lot of hope for Rock and Roller Coaster is so weird because it is at the end of this, like, old time Hollywood kind of promenade that you walk, and you're walking to the Tower of Terror. But then if you look to your left, suddenly there is like big signs that say like K Rock 99.9 or whatever, like 90 style signs and arrows and a big sign that says Aerosmith. So that is totally out of place. So I think my hope would be that they replace that kind of theming with a Muppet Studios arch and theming, and you walk in and there's like the studio store like there used to be. There's the rock and roll, whatever they turn this rock and roller coaster ride into, and then you turn to your left, there's Muppet Vision, and it's all just back there, not bothering anybody. It can just sit back there, and us Muppet fans can be happy.
I
That would be my
mean,
ideal. But I don't even know what you do besides bring it back or have it on Disney Plus. I don't know what the intermediate there could possibly be.
right, which is why when they say preserve it in some way, it's like
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like what does that possibly mean other than one of those two
What
things?
do you think they'll just put it on Disney Plus? Is that your assumption?
My that would be my prediction. Is that they are going to just plop it in Disney Plus and say, "Here you go.
Yeah.
Well, you can watch it whenever you want. You don't have to pay us $5,000 to come down to Disney World and see it." So yeah, obviously not ideal, but you know, Disney doesn't preserve rides that go away. Like
Yeah.
they don't often bring them back, except for the occasional one-off tribute. Like they brought back Captain EO for a little bit after Michael Jackson died,
Right. And
but
yeah.
I don't see them bringing back full-time Muppet Vision
Mhm.
unless they're planning to put out like a series of Muppet films in the next 5-10 years that are
Yeah.
gonna blow up the Muppet fandom. But
Yeah.
I just don't
But
know that there's enough.
I think the Rock and Roller Coaster could be that. Like, I think whatever they retheme it as, I think people get excited about the concept of the Muppets more than they do about like movies
Yes.
and TV shows of the Muppets. So it feels like adding Muppet things to a park.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know, it's like building that Snow White train car. It's like, who gives a shit about Snow White, really? But they built a new roller coaster for it like 5 years ago or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's like seems weird, except that it's such a cultural touchstone. But if they made a Snow White movie, nobody would go see it, right? But people still
What a weird hypothetical you've just tossed out
yeah.
there, Sam. What are the
But
odds?
you can build a Muppet ride, and then you'll be
Yeah.
on the news because they'll say, "Wow, remember the Muppets? We all love the Muppets, right?" But if they release a Muppet movie, nobody would go see it. So
Yeah.
putting a ride in a park has like that same, even a longer tail of like Twilight Zone. Nobody gives a shit about the Twilight Zone, but people remember what it is because.
Right.
So yeah, I think this could be like a rallying moment of some sort, especially if they like kind of go for it, and you go back there and you're like, "Whoa, I'm in Muppet Studios. This feels awesome."
I think 20 years ago, you're right.
Oh
And
wow,
I think that's the way Disney was thinking about things of
yeah,
this isn't necessarily important or super like pop culture relevant,
uh
but
huh,
we can make it more relevant or make people interested by leaning in harder.
yeah,
And now it feels like they're playing the safer game of okay, Avengers, okay, Star Wars,
yeah.
okay, this
But I
thing.
think that's burning them because people hate the Avengers land, and people kind of hate the
Yeah.
Star Wars land too.
It is odd how that seems to have turned in a weird
Yeah,
way, where I feel like there's a couple of years there where people are like, this is amazing.
yeah,
And I think people are getting bored of it, which is interesting. Yeah, I do think Disney has the power to make people care about the Muppets, but I think there's some people in a boardroom saying, why would we bother? People don't care about the
yeah.
Muppets.
Then that's a real problem. You got to
Yeah.
get the people in the boardroom out of there.
Put us in the boardroom.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like if Disney wasn't, or if the parks somehow were not like part of the like publicly traded part of Disney, I feel like
Mm.
things would be way different. Where you'd still have like, let's do whatever we want, we'll have fun. But that's just like everything has to be an IP. And I'm curious, like if they were replacing Muppet Land with something I cared about, how I would feel about it. But Monsters Inc.
Right.
just seems like barely has anything to do with. That's the thing that I hate when they dilute the point of the park, because like Magic Kingdom
Right.
you can put anything in. Tomorrowland's a bit of an exception where that one's kind of screwed up, but but like but like MGM Studios, Hollywood Studios, that's supposed to be movie. Animal Kingdom, that's supposed to be
Yeah.
animal. So like when you put Avatar in Animal Kingdom, it's kind of like that's a movie. That could have gone in movie. Tear it down and put Avatar over there instead. Or like
Yeah.
Monsters Inc. is like, that's a movie, I guess, but it's not a movie about movies, which is what this is supposed to all be.
Well, and like, yeah, building Monstropolis does not make me think about how an animated 3D movie is made. It
Right.
doesn't teach me anything about how
Right.
Pixar makes movies. Like, at least, Star Wars also doesn't make a ton of sense to have.
But you're traveling into a movie.
Yes.
Like,
Well, and you're also, I think, at least it's a live action movie that you're
Yeah,
able to like experience a little bit, so
totally.
you can almost feel like you're in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you can kind of do that with Monsters Inc. as well.
But
But
who wants to?
I think it's just interesting that they still act like that's what the park is. Like, that's the thing, is like, you could change what the park is.
Yeah.
You could make it a whole new theme, but you still are trying to hold on to that MGM Studios where the movies are made kind of thing, but only with like 10% of what you're actually doing in that park.
I'd say maybe like 30%, but yeah. There's definitely like the front part of the park. Yeah, where it's like a celebration of media. But I don't know. I don't know how you change the theme like without just tearing so much of it down. Or
Yeah.
like
I think it's more of a slow burn like they did with the pier in California Adventure.
Yeah, but
where
I hate
eventually
what
they're
they
like,
did with the
"Oh,
pier.
did you notice that we've replaced everything with Pixar? Well, now it's Pixar up here. You're
Yeah.
welcome."
I hate that because then you got Mickey's head on that Pixar themed Ferris wheel, which doesn't make any sense. But they
I
can't
don't think
take
you
that.
do anymore.
Yeah, Mickey's on there.
Is he still?
Yeah, and he wasn't even there to begin with. Actually, now I'm looking at it.
No, they had a big scary sun.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, it's still the big Mickey head.
Okay.
I think California Adventure suffers the same problem where when they try to make a theme park that's based on making movies for some reason, they get really distracted and they're like,
But like the Muppets are the perfect candidates for that idea.
Yeah, totally.
So the idea of the Great Muppet Movie Ride, or the idea of the Muppets being a part of the original MGM Studios idea, was perfect because they are, I don't know, you could plop them into any behind the scenes movie thing,
right,
and they are gonna fit right in.
Yeah, like how many rides have we ride where we were like, Muppets would have been great in this. Just get Sam Eagle in there.
Yeah,
hosting the American Adventure.
Yeah, that might change the tone of it just a little bit if you're
Well,
like
they'd have to have
Mark Twain, Benjamin Franklin, and Sam the Eagle.
That would be a fun theme throughout all of the parks where you could walk 10 feet to the left and see like the shitty Muppet version of everything. But I think in terms of how it holds up as a Muppet product, Muppets Vision 3D also is like great. It's like funny. I think it's the funniest Statler and Waldorf have ever been, in my opinion. The part where
Kermit
he's
too.
like,
Kermit has some great jokes.
Kermit's great. Yeah, Kermit's very zen in this. I feel like he is not freaking out about how bad everything's going. He's like,
Yes,
we live in Florida now. We got this Disney contract. Everything's going to be okay, even if we blow this theater up 12 times a day. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of just like, that happened.
The little joke he has where he's like, we invited the greatest scientists in the world. Unfortunately, none of them showed up. Or like when Statler's like, when he's like, sorry, lady, because he says that there's just like
mask.
there's just so many funny parts, and it was great to sit in it with the audience was full, and everybody was really into it, and there were like kids who were like losing their minds and like laughing at these characters that are so old.
Yeah, I did have we talked a little bit, I think, in the clip we recorded on location about a sadness coming over us a little bit when we were watching it for the second time, and really thinking about like, not only is this like our last time watching it, but like people in general aren't going to be able to watch this for much longer. And I did have a moment where there was all these like people quoting it and kids laughing and clapping along, where I was like, man, I would love to take my daughter to this in a few years.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to do that.
Maybe you'll get to. Maybe they'll.
I'm gonna have to show her a shitty YouTube recording and be like, "I swear this was cool. I promise."
Yeah, imagine the people doing Kermitment, and
I'll get some little like
years from now,
Statler and Waldorf figures and be like, "Now look, imagine over here, there's robots."
Yeah,
That's how
Maybe
they're going to preserve it. I'm just going to make a full scale recreation in my house.
maybe uh there's like a bigger conversation to have about like what is a theme park ride supposed to be for, or like specifically
Hmm.
what is it, and like how do you decide when to tear it down and replace it with something else, and like what metric and what where, like, because I think about this with the Tiki Room a lot, or like It's a
Mm.
Small World, where it's like, yeah, probably like the president should say you can never tear this down. It's
Right.
probably like a national heritage site or something like that. It's like, especially Small World to me is like, and I think Muppet Vision also is like
Hmm.
this. It's like an art piece that is on a is like in a rich guy's house, like the rich guy's Disney,
Right.
and you can
It's
go
like,
in and
oh,
look
where
at
is
it.
Starry Night? Oh, it's in that guy's house. No one can look at it.
Yeah, or it's like, "Oh, I painted Luke Skywalker on a Starry Night so that more people would wanna come see it." It's like, there's a certain amount of, like, cultural responsibility. There
Yeah.
should be. There isn't,
Right.
but there should be a certain amount of, like, "Okay, what are the ramifications of doing this? And should we just buy 10 more acres to the left of our theme park and build something there instead?" Or,
Well,
like,
Sam, that's the thing. They don't even have to buy them. They already own
they already
them.
own it. Yeah,
They
that's right.
own so much empty space that I
Yeah,
understand is more expensive to tear down and build new infrastructure
yeah.
than to just replace Muppet buildings with monster buildings. But, I think what Sam's saying is yeah, there is some level of this stuff can become very important to the, history of pop culture.
Right. If you tear down It's a
Um,
Small World someday, it's like that is jokes in stuff going back to like uh
yeah.
Jimmy Dean show, like when it
Yeah.
first opened. Like,
Since like day one of that being open, It's a Small World has been a cultural reference. And like, yeah, plenty of things have been lost to time.
hmm,
But when you are the one who controls whether or not something is lost to time,
yeah.
I feel like you can make some
You got
better
to ask
choices
yourself a
there.
few more questions. And you
Yeah.
know what? Maybe they could get rid of Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular.
Oh, that is a perfect transition point, Sam. Let's talk about the rest of our trip a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay.
So we obviously didn't go for just Muppets. We had 3 days in the parks. So the first day we spent entirely at Hollywood Studios. We wanted to really give Muppets our full attention, but we also, of course, had Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. We had our reservation at the Sci-Fi Dine-In.
Tower
We
of
had a
Terror.
yeah,
Some
we
of
had
my
a
favorite
lot
stuff
we
is there,
wanted to
yeah.
do. That's the thing is we have talked some shit about Hollywood Studios in this, but some of our favorite things
Yeah.
exist in Hollywood Studios. So there is redeeming qualities. um,
It's my favorite one. And you know, it probably is my favorite one because of Muppets Go to Disney World, because they spend so much time there. I
yeah,
think is probably a big
mm,
motivator, but I also love scary rides. So Tower of
yeah.
Terror is like directly my
Tower of
shit.
Terror is great. And we had nighttime reservations at Oga's Cantina, so we got to be in the parks a little past
That place
close
is
when we were
fun too.
leaving.
And our bartenders were fun.
Bartenders were great. The second day we woke up early to go to Animal Kingdom. We did all the Pandora stuff. We did Everest. We did Dinosaur for the last time as
Mm,
well.
yeah.
We had a nice little morning at Animal Kingdom before popping over to Magic Kingdom in the afternoon and spending the rest of our day there. We ended our night at Trader Sam's Tiki Terrace in Grog
That
Grotto.
place ruled.
Yeah, we had some cocktails at Grog Grotto, where if you have not been to Trader Sam's, it's a tiki bar that's very much Disneyified, where when you order certain drinks, the entire bar is affected by what you have ordered. So a volcano will go off, the lights will change. Sometimes there's a storm that breaks out, and a
A
tiki
big
god gets
clam,
angry.
or like a big clam will open and your drink will be inside of the clam.
Mm-hmm. And then yeah, our
It's
third
also
day.
almost every drink. So it's like constantly
Yes.
happening. And these poor wait staff people are just like doing these skits like 15 times an hour. But they're having fun with it,
They
seems
seem to be
like.
having a good time.
Yeah.
And then yeah, our last day in the park was just Epcot all day, where we rode Ratatouille. We visited all the different little countries. We saw Sam Eagle's barbecue joint. That is barely a Sam Eagle barbecue joint.
We rode the new Guardians ride, which was really fun.
We rode that twice
Yeah.
because it's very, very good.
It was great.
We rode most of the rides that we intended to ride. We forgot about Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yeah. We rode most of
Uh,
the big stuff though.
yeah, we rode all the new stuff that we hadn't ridden before, like
Hmm.
Tron Light Cycle, which we can say, I will say, not a great queue, not nearly as themed as you think it might be, And yes, that
Yeah.
ride is as short as everyone has warned you it is.
Yeah. I would hazard to say it is not worth it. It almost seems like a ride that they built so that all of the bad teenagers in the park could go to there.
I would
And
say because Guardians exists,
oh
especially,
yeah, yeah,
you don't need to ride Tron as long as you're going to ride Guardians because
yeah,
Guardians is a better, longer roller coaster with better theming.
yeah. When we got off Tron, we were like, "That was just Space Mountain, boo!" And then when we went on Guardians, we were like, "That was Space Mountain, hooray!" Because they are
Yes.
both two Space Mountains. But
They're very Space Mountain-y, but Guardians is a lot more fun.
yeah, the
Um,
music makes a big difference. And
yeah,
Tron,
Tron is
like,
just I think it takes itself almost too seriously.
yeah, the pre-show, the theming in Tron sucks major ass, and it could be so cool because I think we went somewhere else. I don't remember what building we were in, and it was like, this looks just like Tron. This should just be what Tron looks
Yeah.
like. Was it
When
like
you
the
were trying
Imagination
to
building or something? I don't even. It was somewhere where it just looked like Tron.
right. Well, and I was optimistic that they were doing one of those like, okay, when you get into the second building, like the part of
Yeah,
the show, the next part of the
yeah,
queue will be more fun looking because we were in the outside area waiting and there was sort of like this like big beam thing
yeah.
and we were sort of talking of like, oh, okay, so is this us being sort of transported
That's what
into
turns you into Tron
Tron
World.
land?
Yeah,
And I was like, well, it feels like it's not really like there's not a story being told. You're just supposed to, I guess, assume that's what's happening. And you
yeah,
walk through these doors, and all of a sudden you're there. And you're like, oh, I guess that was what happened. I just exist in the world of Tron now. And for some reason, I'm on the blue team competing in this event.
yeah.
But there's
Eh,
nothing happened to you. You're not shrunk down or sucked into the game or whatever needs to happen. Like you're just
you're just standing on a cement
there.
pad for 2 hours, and then you get in a really like in concept getting on that motorcycle is cool,
Yeah.
but in practice it's like okay, but it's not
I mean, the
really
fact that they are like, they have to do so much to get you on that motorcycle.
to
They're
tell
like,
you how to do it.
here's a locker.
Yeah,
You have to put everything in that locker. You
yeah,
cannot keep anything with you. So, like, immediately taken out of the immersion of that, too. Cause I'm like, oh, do the
right.
Tron guys have to put their stuff in lockers?
Right.
um,
And they could call them storage cubes or something.
yeah, I do like when
Yeah,
the facade has to drop a little bit, like on Rise of the
yeah.
Resistance, where the people are like, "We're here to save you. Get in the cars. All right, is everyone's seatbelt
Buckle,
buckled?
pull
Pull in
the
your
yellow
straps. All
tab,
right,
please.
now let's
Pull the
go. Let's get you to the Resistance."
yeah,
um, but yeah, I think Tron Light Cycle is fine once, but
yeah,
really not worth like a 4 hour wait or anything if that's the problem.
yeah.
On the flip side, as far as new rides go, Tiana's Bayou Adventure was a fun little time.
I thought it was really cute.
Yeah.
I think people forget that there's big stretches of time where nothing is happening on Splash Mountain also. And
Yeah.
they actually have added more stuff in those places where nothing was happening on Splash Mountain.
In the finale is much better and bigger
Yeah.
and more impressive than it
Yeah.
was on Splash Mountain. We've seen a lot of things online about people complaining about Tiana's Bayou Adventure being broken. And I will say
Mhm.
we did have a couple technical glitches when we
Yeah.
wrote it, which were I don't know. I'm sure it's very hard to make a theme park ride work consistently, but like one of them was just a screen that wasn't on,
Yeah.
but we could
Which
hear
is
the
like,
audio.
you could have made Mama Odie a little robot in that part and she'd at
Yeah.
least be there.
We also had a couple non-working parts of Rise of the Resistance, like the guns weren't moving and the Kylo Ren animatronic at the end wasn't doing anything, which I also know is a pretty common
Yeah.
thing that happens there, which was disappointing. But the biggest disappointment for us, I will say, I think I'm speaking correctly here for Sam,
Okay.
was the Indiana Jones epic
Yeah.
stunt
Back to this.
spectacular,
Yeah.
which was not at all epic in our experience.
It was the most palpable feeling of like mass confusion and disappointment and embarrassment on the part of the people in the show that I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, for those that are unaware, the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular is a thing that when I was a kid fascinated me, excited me when I was a 10-year-old going to see it at Disney World. You can see a good chunk of it in Muppets Go to Walt Disney World, starring Piggy and Kermit in the
Mhm.
show itself. But it is basically a on-set recreation of major moments from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you get
And
to see explosions and the big boulder thing
yeah,
and
the
trucks
plane
flipping
fight
over.
where the plane's spinning around with the
Yeah.
propellers. And it's like the kind of thing that you go and maybe you're like a dad who brings his kids and you're like, this ride this is fucking cool. Trust me, this
Mhm.
is so cool. You're gonna have your mind blown. And then you go, and what happens?
Yeah, so we go into the show and they say over the loudspeaker, there's a pre-recorded message saying, "Due to some technical issues, some parts of today's show will be changed or omitted." And we're like, "Okay, whatever. It's Indiana Jones, still cool,
Maybe like
whatever."
some fireballs won't go off or something like that.
Exactly. So we get in, we see the opening scene where Indy is in the Peruvian temple. He's getting the little golden god off the thing, and of course, the big ball rolls after him. He goes through all the booby traps, makes his escape. We all cheer when he climbs a rope. The moments at which people cheer in that thing is a little weird.
Well, it's cool to see somebody doing it in real life.
Yeah. Um, and then that wraps up, and we are treated to what I think Sam and I decided are some of the weirdest cast member jobs at Walt Disney World is the Disney cast members who have to pretend to be on-set directors and camera people for a
Yeah.
stunt show,
Yeah.
which does not actually feature working cameras or a director that is necessary. Um, but they set up the next scene, which is always the next scene, which is the streets of Cairo, where they're climbing on the buildings, they're jumping off of things, they're running around,
fighting
they're
some
fighting
goons.
acrobats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where the show would normally go on to there's a Jeep that Marianne gets taken away in. Indy shoots at the Jeep. It flips over. It blows up. He thinks she's in there. Oh my God. But guess what? Nope, she's fine. It was all a stunt. But we did get to see a truck flip and blow up, which is really cool, right? And then after that, what's supposed to happen is that the big Nazi plane from Raiders of the Lost Ark is in the background. There's machine guns shooting. There's the German mechanic. There's things blowing up. There's a lot of fire. It's very exciting. The gas gets lit and blows up. Except when we saw it, it ended during the Cairo street scene before the Jeep even blows up.
Yeah.
We saw no explosions whatsoever.
It just kind of he just beats up all the guys, and then it just kind of stops, and all the cast turns to you and they say, "Thanks for watching."
They
And
jumped off the building. That was
Yeah.
their finale. Was like they're climbing up the building. They jump off of it. They land, and we're like, "Yeah, woo, this is cool." And they're like, "Thank you so much for coming out to Indiana Jones."
But they say it so like
spectacular.
it's over now, and then they
Yeah.
all look at you like, "We know it's confusing,
We're
but you
so
must
sorry.
go now." And then everybody just sits there for like 10 seconds until they're like, "Oh, that was
Yeah.
the end of it."
There was, I think, no matter how many times you've seen it, whether it was your first time or your 50th time, I think everyone was confused.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a natural there's no natural conclusion to it. And then you look up like what the technical difficulties are, and it was just like COVID, and it's been like that since like 2020 or something.
Yeah, because they closed it in March of 2020
Mhm.
for obvious reasons. But they announced that the updated version would be reopening in 2021. And I don't know what that could possibly mean or what they
Mhm.
did other than take things away.
Right.
So whatever version of this opened in December 2021, I don't know if there ever was a plane since then, or if there was ever a flipping Jeep since
My
then, or if it
understanding is that
has
there
been this
wasn't,
sad
but-
like 8-minute show. Because if so, they really need to advertise that more.
Yeah. On Reddit, I think I think I saw on Reddit that it just never came back. And then it's
So
been this way
sad.
since then. And it's such a cool little experience. And yeah, they do need to say on the pre-recorded thing, this is half the length you're gonna
We're
remember it
sorry.
being. We're sorry, yeah. And not make all those people have to come out and be like, you have to go home now. Because I
Yeah.
felt bad for them.
Well, because they still do. In the past, they used to get like a volunteer from the audience to be an extra in one of the scenes, and now
Yeah.
they just like kind of have two kids come down to say lights, camera, action, and then they're
Yeah.
like, "All right, bye."
But there was like an audience plant dumbass in like a Hawaiian shirt who would like get into trouble, and you thought he died at one point too or something like that. But then at the end, he's in on it. And I remember watching that when I was a kid and being like, "What?
Yeah.
How?" Yeah. So that was bad. But I guess that they could they could tear that down and put Muppet Vision there.
Or just put Kermit and Piggy back in it from the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, honestly, that's just one of those things I want them to fix and make it like it used to be. Like, it
Yeah.
was such a good, fun show, especially when I was a kid, that
Yeah.
the idea that like you go in and cram in all of these people into
There's
this
and
big,
it's still full every time.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
people were very excited and then very confused.
Yeah.
But we did have a very good time. I think I'm speaking for
I did.
myself.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Sam since the airport.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that MGM Studios, I think I did more on this trip than I think I've ever done before in terms of just, and I think it's because it was so empty. Like, it
yeah,
was so easy to go on everything and just like hop back on Tower of Terror and like hop
Mhm.
back on stuff. But yeah, I got to go to Sci-Fi Dine-In, which is another place where every time I go, I'm like, I have to remember all of this because this won't be here anymore. Except that place was full, and they just redid the menu, so it's like actually good now, which was shocking to me. But it was so that I was like, that was really fun to me. I thought watching that I was telling Matt that's how all that's how all restaurants should be.
I
There
think
should
that
just
is
be
what
a
you said.
big TV in front of you, and it should just show trailer. Like, this is my idea, that you're on a romantic date. You're in a place like this. You're watching trailers of romantic movies and like little fun little like sequences from them, and then you get to say to your date, "That was a great movie." Ah, beautiful. And you seeing like cute stuff, because me and Matt were having a great time talking about what was on screen.
Do you think they should make original fake trailers for it, or should
No,
they
they should show
do
The
real
Holiday.
trailers?
They should show The
Gotcha.
Notebook. They should show all that kind of stuff.
See, The Holiday is a
And-
great example because what they could do is show like the fake trailers, like the ones that are in The Holiday,
oh yeah, yeah.
or the fake trailers like in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Like, they could make a bunch of romantic comedy trailers featuring like the biggest stars in the world
Oh
for
yeah, that
movies
would
that
be fun.
don't actually exist. And like,
Yeah.
maybe there's a mixture of the two. Like, maybe they could incorporate some actual trailers,
Yeah.
some throwbacks. But yeah, no, the Sci-Fi Dining was a lot of fun. That's another place that I haven't eaten since I was 10.
Yeah. And the sci-fi thing works great too, because it is like, that's so crazy looking, that's so stupid, or like, ooh, that
Well, and they
alien's kinda
take you in,
spooky.
and it's like a behind the scenes, like backlot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're walking behind a set when you walk
Yeah, I've
in
never
there.
had the lady gave us a spiel as we walked back. She was like, "You're being transported back to the 1950s to
Yeah.
or the 1960s to whatever." I've never had her do that before, but it did feel. I felt like throughout the park there was a lot of like, because I went in 2021 or early 2022, and it
Mm.
was like messed up. The park was
Mm.
really messy, and the people, it was like a skeleton crew. But I feel like there was like a really renewed like, okay, we gotta really try to um we're like back in our theme. We're doing the whole
Mm.
thing. Galaxy's Edge, maybe not so much.
I was
But
gonna say, I don't mean, I don't want to go off again.
the lady got mad at you about saying coffee.
No,
You got
no
mad
one
at
got
the lady.
mad. I got
Okay.
frustrated later, not in front of her,
Okay.
because it's Galaxy's Edge. For those that haven't been, at least in the past, it was very sort of strict with the way the cast members sort of treated the language. So
Mhm.
instead of like good morning or hello, they'd say bright suns or like to the spire or whatever when you're leaving. And in the world of Star Wars, coffee does not exist. It is called calf. So I walk up to Ronto's Roasters. We're having breakfast there. I get a Ronto breakfast wrap, no problem. I look at the menu and I say, and I'll have a black calf.
Which is what it says on the menu.
That's what it says on the menu. And the woman working the counter goes, "What?" And I say, "I'll have a black calf." And she's like, "Oh, you want black coffee?" And I say, "Yes." Because I go to pay with my magic band, which this was
Oh.
the first morning, first breakfast. Go to pay with my magic band, and it asked me for a pin, which I didn't realize I had to set up. And I'm like, "Oh, it's asking for a pin. I can just pay with my card. I'll set that up later." And she's like, "Well, if you go to the desk at your resort when you get back tonight, the people at the desk can help you out with that." And I was like, "No, you're not supposed to know about Disney resorts. You're supposed to say like when you travel back to your planet, because that's what they used to do at Galaxy's Edge. Is like if you brought up something about Disneyland or a
Uh-huh.
Disney princess, they would say like, 'Oh, I've heard rumors of that planet.' And now they're just
Wow.
like, 'Yeah, your Disney resort guest services will help you with your magic band when you get back there.' And I'm like, what have they done to my beautiful
Hey, not the
Galaxy's
lady who
Edge?
gave me my iced calf. She was fully invested.
Hmm. That was the first my first interaction with a cast member at like Disney World for our trip, and I was like, oh no, here we go. But thankfully, the rest of the trip was great. Well, then to wrap up our Disney World adventure, I just want to say thank you again to our Patreon patrons who helped support this trip and make it happen. and the listeners and supporters of this podcast for encouraging us to do it, because in another world we don't have this podcast and we didn't get to go see Muppet Vision before it closed.
No, I would have been so sad. I would have begged my mom to go with me though. I would have gone to it one more time.
Thankfully, you didn't have to beg anyone. I was more than happy to go with you and to go to Muppet Vision 3D one last time.
And we got to go again when the whatever roller coaster it is opens.
We will have to go again sometime. I have a feeling it will not just be the two of us when that trip happens. I have a feeling that it might be a bigger family trip.
Yeah.
But we've done it now once with just the two of us. We had the laissez-faire approach to it. So next time, if I'm bringing a toddler along and it's a little bit more stressful, that's all right.
Yeah, man. That's your problem. That's your problem.
Let's define the minimum height for the Muppet roller coaster. And the moment she hits that, we're going.
We're booking our tickets. That's a great
idea. She's 41 inches. Let's go.
Yeah, I like that.
Well then, Sam, I gotta return to form here a little bit and ask, since I saw you last, what non-Muppet things did you enjoy this week?
I love strategy RPG games where you're like moving your little like Final Fantasy Tactics is the best one I can think of.
Right.
Or
you got a bunch of guys like on a grid.
Yeah.
You're moving them around.
Moving them around the grid. And I've been looking for a fun one. I like XCOM a lot. I like Final Fantasy Tactics, but I've been playing this kind of older Switch game. I think it's 4 or 5 years old at this point, but still $60 because it's a Switch game. Called Triangle Tactics, which is like partially kind of just like a novel because they talk so goddamn much in it. But it's heating up now, like a couple hours into the game, where they've established everybody. But it has it's like Final Fantasy Tactics quality, which is like the gold standard to a lot of people, I think. Like strategy, RPG, action. And I've just been like, if you like that kind of game and you know what kind of game I'm talking about, I love it. And it's a great kind of game for Switch too, because it's just easy to like pick up and play a couple battles and then stop. But yeah, that's mostly what I've been doing with my free time in the last week or so.
This is one of those Sam and I are very different people kind of moments, because that is maybe my least favorite kind of video game.
That's like the only kind of video game I like anymore, because I'm just old and I secretly just want to play Warhammer really bad. But if anybody out there has suggestions for games like that, I'd love to hear them. Because
isn't there like a Rabbids one? You could be Rabbids.
That was the other. That was the. It doesn't necessarily. It can be on computer or anything. But that was another one I almost got. Was the Rabbids Mario game.
Well, yeah, I got back and for some reason was like, I need to rewatch Arrested Development. So for some reason, I'm almost done with the first season already.
Okay.
I think it was like, I don't know. I just opened up Netflix because I've been going this week and trying to decide what streaming platforms and things I can get rid of, if anything, to save some money.
Mm-hmm.
And was revisiting, like just logging in and being like, does anything on here excite me? And I opened up Netflix and saw Arrested Development. It was like, ooh, I haven't rewatched that in a few years. Gotta say, still a great show. Good job, guys.
Pretty fun show.
Much like Scrubs, I don't know if I'll watch the last season when I get there, because, oh boy, was that a rough one.
Even if it had been funny, it was still sad that they weren't all together all that much.
That's the problem, is because for those maybe who haven't watched Arrested Development, what that show is really good about is that throughout an episode, there's a lot of random weird things that will happen. And at the end of the episode, everything comes together in a very satisfying way. That's very funny, very good. I know a lot of shows are like that, but Arrested Development does it better than a lot of them in some extreme cases. What they had to do with the last like reboot series they put on Netflix, because a lot of the actors are big famous actors now and they can't all be in the same room at the same time, is they filmed a whole season like that, where you get a whole episode where one character was doing something weird and there's not a lot of context for why it's happening, but you have to expect that, I guess, 5 episodes later it'll all pay off.
Yeah.
And what this is called is frustrating. And they're also green screened into the same set sometimes, and it looks terrible. And it's very just, it's one of those things where it's like, I love all these people, I love the writing, but maybe this one didn't need to happen.
We don't want to see just Tobias having an adventure by himself.
That's the thing, is like when it does pay off, you're like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
But I didn't enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta let you know what we're doing next time here on Kermitment, because unfortunately it's not another cross-country trip to a theme park. Instead, we are returning to the nursery. But we will not be alone, because we will be joined by our returning guest, Nick Jenkins, as we go back to the nursery and watch 3 more episodes of Season 5 of Muppet Babies.
Good Lord.
These episodes are Is There a Muppet in the House?, Slipping Beauty, and Muppet Baby Boom.
We recorded this one a long time ago.
Yeah. You will hear in that episode, clearly we recorded that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because it was recorded before we went to Disney World.
Yeah.
But we, of course, also watched a 1988 VHS tape called Neat Stuff to Know and to Do.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. That was fun.
Yeah. I think we actually spend a large part of that episode talking about that VHS tape.
You're right.
Which is
Yeah,
shocking.
You're right.
So that'll be next time here on Kermitment as we continue through Season 5 of Muppet Babies. I promise we'll be done with it pretty soon. And we'll move on to some other fun non-Muppet Babies 1988 things.
We're starting to get really into uncharted territory, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to be, I think, just in the most exciting era of uncharted territory. And then I'm going to have to go on a parental leave for a little while.
That's right.
So before we go, we got to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast, and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to Kermitment.com for all your commitment needs, including listening to episodes, picking up merch, or signing up to become one of those lovely Patreon patrons who made our Disney World trip happen. And while you're listening to the podcast, don't forget to rate and review it. I haven't seen a new review come in a while on Apple Podcasts, but I'd love to read one out on the podcast soon. If you want to get in touch, you can email us at mail@kermitment.com or follow us on social media places at KermitmentPod or at Kermitment.com on Blue Sky. And you can always follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.